All right. So I think looks like we've got a few people in here, so I'm gonna get started. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Sarah DeMille, and I'm the marketing coordinator here at HR Strategies Consulting. So today we're going to be discussing DEIB, what it means, how to audit yourself for it, and how to best put it into action within your organization. I do have a few housekeeping items to address before we get started today. So we do have the chat open. If you have any questions during the course of the session, we encourage you to type those in there and we can address them throughout. However, we will also save some time at the end for any questions that you may have. We'll also be sharing a copy of the deck and the recording following today's session. So with that out of the way, I'd like to kick things off by introducing today's presenter. Vice President of SEP24, Kareen is a well-known guest speaker, an HR marketing expert, and is passionate about diversity and changing the world of work for both organizations and the individual humans who work for them. Her combined experience in both HR management and marketing has allowed her to counsel to top multinational organizations on how to develop talent acquisition strategies, nurture culture and people, and foster positive workplaces for all to thrive. So thank you so much for joining us today, Kareen.
Thank you, Sarah. Every time I hear it, I'm like, I need to shorten this. But at one point, I will get to it.
We want to show off the credentials.
You have them. So thank you so much for the introduction. I'm happy to be with you today, guys. Today, it will be an easy session, you will see, because DEI is such a wonderful topic. Sarah, if there are questions that you feel like I should be answering right away, feel free to interrupt me and tell me there's a question in the chat as I don't see them. Otherwise, we'll go back in the chat and answer later. So fantastic. Let's kick this off. So what do we want to do today? We want to talk about the fact that, okay, now you know that diversity, equity, and inclusion are a priority within your organization. Excellent. We're all happy about that. But now we need a plan. We need to know what to do. We need to start. And today, that's exactly what we're going to be talking about, the plan and the actors. So who's involved? So the first thing we want to talk about is to make sure that we have the same vocabulary throughout the presentation. So diversity. What is diversity? Diversity is your identity. Okay, it's who you are. It goes way beyond race and gender and disabilities. You know, these are the three things that we hear the most. It talks about your generation, your experiences, your education. It talks about things like ADHD, about dyslexia, beauty standards. It's all of that that can make your identity different from someone else. So you'll say, wow, so everyone is diversity. Well, yes, because diversity is identity. However, as you know, throughout history, there have been different populations or different identities that have been neglected, that have gone through things that were more difficult. And we need to make sure that now we're working towards a better world. So diversity is identity, okay? Equity. Equity is when you provide programs, you provide opportunities to make sure that people have a chance to participate to something and in a way that is fair. So, for example, there is a process for promotion. It's known to all, but it's not the same for everyone. It needs to be adapted so it's equitable. That's different. Inclusion is when these programs, they're managed in a way that it is fair, that it is unbiased. So as I was saying, for example, you have your promotion program. Now to make sure that people feel included, you make sure that everyone has the same opportunity to apply to these programs or to participate. And belonging is when, you know, there is satisfaction. You're happy with work-related tasks. This means that you are not going to work and you feel, you anticipate that it will be a burden, that it will be complicated. This is when belonging happens. You know that you have your place. So Many of you know this quote, but I think it's the best to represent what we're talking about. Diversity is having a seat at the table. So your identity, you're here, you're recognized, okay? Equity is having a chair that fits whomever you are, that chair is yours. You bring it up. It's the right size. It's the right fit. So yes, that's equity. Inclusion is having a voice, and belonging is having that voice be heard, okay? So now, it is not easy, okay? Let's be honest. Diversity first, you see at the top, this is not a project. This is a lifestyle, an organizational lifestyle. You decide that moving forward, all of your decisions will include this DEI dimension. You will be able to put your lenses and say, oh, did I forget someone in this? How will it be lived? What will people think? How will they feel? I remember this belonging aspect saying that I have thoughts of joy, I'm happy, I'm content, I move forward, because when people are happy with work, they're committed, they're engaged, whatever the position, they will want to make it the best possible work because it's meaningful. So when you create an environment where the DEIB is well executed, well, you have a better company, you are a good corporate citizen. So ready, set, go. What do we start with? We start with an audit. I'm going to be sipping water throughout the conference. I'm sorry about that. Starting to have a sore throat. So what is the audit when we talk about DEI? What should it include? The first thing is the self-identification survey. So it's some things that will, this is some questions that will be allowing you to understand your demographics. So you will talk about every possible way to describe a person, and that person will select what fits the most to represent themselves. This way, you know, for example, if you have enough women in leadership, if people of color are represented throughout the organization, if ADHD people are in certain roles, you will be able to understand what your workforce looks like, what it's missing. And when you have diversity, pools of diversity as well, that's a richness that you can work with. So first thing to do, internal survey, self-identification. Second thing, within the same survey, okay, you can ask questions about your current programs and initiatives. So you have an onboarding program, you have benefits, you have a gym, you have a parking, I don't know, everything that you have can be benefits, can be programs. You highlight them and you ask your people if they feel like they can take part in it, that they can benefit from it, that they feel like they are allowed to use it or to be able to use it for the right reasons for them. So now you understand if the time and the money you've invested in these makes sense for your employee population or for only a piece of it. Then you look at your candidate and your employee experience. So let's talk about that. I covered a lot of it already, but for the self-identification survey, so yes, the demographics, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, disability, neurodiversity, everything we've talked about. What matters to them, as I was saying, talk about your programs. In the yellow box, top right, this needs to be anonymous. Okay, it's super important. Leverage a secure platform with, for example, dual identity identification. So this way, you don't have people that will fill the survey 2-3 times. It will not impact your data. And partner, if you have to, with a DEI agency. Why? Because it shows that confidentiality is super important to you, that data will remain anonymous. So usually you will have a higher percentage of responses when you use a third party. Otherwise, again, you can do it internally, but it's very important that you reinforce the fact that this data will remain anonymous. Your current initiatives and program, as I was saying, you can either do it in this same survey. Otherwise, you can also do it with a roundtable with different people that are key within the company and that represents different samples. So you want to look at what's in place currently. Do you have a DEI committee? What type of trainings are in place? The accommodations that you have? What is the manager support that they're getting? But also you can think about, oh, we have also this in the work. Think about that. So make an extensive list. The best thing to do is really to put it in their survey, okay? And ask them what they think about that. Is it important to them? Have they used it? So, and here, a great thing to do is a workshop with HR and the DEI committee if you have one. Because this way, you can already start to list everything because you're going to forget something. So work together to create this list and then ask your employees what they think. So I was at the candidate and employee experience. So see here the mapping. The mapping is for the employee experience. The same one exists for candidate experience. I'm going to start with this one. So you are an employee. You have the pre-onboarding. Pre-onboarding is before you sign the offer. So it's the first meeting where when you hear that, yes, you get the job. How does it happen? What is the first communication with your manager? For example, is it a text that your manager will send you, hey, I'm so happy you're joining the team, la, la, la. Is it something that is accessible? Is this something that represents who you are? Team onboarding, accommodation, performance reviews, day-to-day, work environment, the tools you provide, communication, internal mostly, the relation with the colleagues and management, values live at work, trust and empowerment, recognition, work conditions and benefits, health and wellness, and retirement and departure. You also have these little asterisks here that represent life events. So birth, adoption, sabbatical, disability, all of these elements will be lived by your employees through these different feelings: dissatisfaction, stress, rejection, or belonging. So what can you do for each of these points to transform the experience in a way that will make them feel like they belong? For example, the work environment. When you receive your demographics, and you realize that you have, for example, a lot of new moms. Well, do you need to partner with daycare services? Do you need to have a breastfeeding room? Is there something in the work environment that you need to transform? You need to look at your demographics and take action to transform the experience. Same thing for the candidates. So that map is similar, but it will be mostly around, I send my resume. Is it possible for me to send it whomever I am? If I have a disability and I need to send it using voice control, or I need to be able to pick up the phone and talk to someone, or are you able to accommodate people? And you can tell me, yes, but Kareen, if they cannot do that, they won't be able to perform the job. So why would I have to go through all of this? Well, first, because it's the right thing to do. And it's okay if you tell them to perform this job, you have to be able to carry boxes or to read or type or whatever it is. That's okay, because competencies are mandatory for roles. But the fact that people want to join your company and can have competencies that will be useful to you in different roles or for the future should make you willing to transform the candidate experience in a way that they can apply to your job. Same thing, first interview. Oh no, before that, selection. I'm going to talk about that in a few seconds. Let's go here, okay? No, changing my mind. So when you look at the onboarding, you have the person that comes for the first interview, and then the second interview, and then the job offer. Same thing. How will it be lived through the different beliefs, different education, different geography, so locations where they come from? All of that should have tint how you interact with these different key moments within the experience. That's when, when I said it's a huge undertaking to talk about diversity because it touches everything. But you don't have to do everything at once. You morsel it. What is the most important? You start with your demographics. So first, I was saying, use your demographic data. Okay. Why? Because that's your baseline. That's what you're working with. That's where you will know, oh, wow, we really need to improve in this area, or where, oh, wow, I never noticed that we had so many people that are this and that. So for sure, we need to work on the experience because they have this need for a different experience, or they cannot be interacting with the way that we created policies and programs. So your data is key. You should do it, at least once a year to make sure that you understand how your workforce is moving. And if you're doing a sprint in recruitment and hiring a lot of people, you can do it twice a year. That's all right. The KPIs, are super important. From the get-go, when you decide that you will be looking at DEI for real, there has to be objectives. Okay, so your KPIs will impact how you look at your demographic data. For example, let's say you started all of this because you want to do, I don't know, partnership with affiliations, local affiliations to hire new type of candidates. For example, people with disabilities that can do now work from home, that would work. Well, this KPI will be to increase the number of people of this identity within your workforce. Okay, so that's your objective versus your starting point. That's excellent. But you need to have evolving KPIs as well, because you're going to be discovering things that you were not aware of. Because sometimes we're so used to look at our business that we don't see how it's composed. And this way you need to look at, oh, wow, in this department, they're all new. They're all new graduates. Wow, okay, we need to involve like senior coaches. It's super important for their growth. Or you look at another thing, oh, wow, in this team, we never had female leadership. We need to give the opportunity, make sure that it's open to everyone. So the demographic data will help set further KPIs. You need to have some from the get-go, what are your basic objectives, and then see what you have to work with and evolve with them. For the initiatives and programs, once you've looked at yourself, you've did your list, you work with HR, you work with the DEI committee, you have surveyed your employee population, look at your competitors, okay? And competitors, they don't have to be, for example, your product competitors, they can be your hiring competitors, or they can just be someone that is inspiring, a company that you're like, oh my God, I wish we've been doing things like them. They're amazing. Go online, check their website. What do they do? Most of the time, they will have a DEI section. Pick ideas. It's okay. It's for a good reason. It's just to make a better workplace. So feel free to do that. Then the recurring survey. Okay. So are there subjects brought back over and over through your survey responses? So if you have, for example, office vibe, that's something super interesting to use because you have your demographics, that's okay. But then you will have comments on your policies and programs and initiatives. And if things come back, even though you work on them and it's recurring, feel free to use these pulse surveys to dig more, to understand like, oh, what didn't you like about the changes? What is it? So you can really act on these because all of your changes will also require change management. We'll talk about that later. And finally, for your KPIs, ask around, make sure that you involve everyone that should. So your senior leadership team should be on board, that's for sure. HR, DEI committee, everyone has their own KPIs that they want to track. And that's okay. Again, some things will be harder, some things will get longer, but get your list, use your survey and make sure that you follow up with all of the involved groups. Quick stat, because our brains love stats. COVID-19 has exacerbated the already uneven work equity gaps. Women's jobs are 1.8 times more vulnerable to this crisis than men's jobs. Women take up 39% of global employment, but account for 54% of overall job losses. Why am I talking about this? Because there is a shift that happened on the market. We know that there are a lot of consequences and impacts that came from COVID. A lot of women lost their jobs, more than men, okay? And already the equity wasn't there. We worked on pay equity, absolutely, but the roles that are management role, the opportunity to be part of bigger projects, the stigma associated with maternity leave, all of that has created a step back for women. And now the fact that they have lost their jobs in majority, well, it adds to the anxiety. It adds to the fact that people are, this belonging factor, well, it's sinking. And when you have, 50% of the workforce are women, and if you say, oh, wow, okay, they are disengaged, there needs to be programs, there needs to be politics in place that will change that for them. So that's just one of the identities that we're talking about, but it's important to know that right now they are in this mindset. They're like, I'm disengaged. It's easy for me to get fired, laid off. It's more complicated for me to connect with my ambition. So programs, for example, need to think about the current market. What's happening? What are the latest that have been changing the vibe? On the market right now, we all hear about quiet quitting. People are just doing their job 9 to 5 and leaving after. And there is a huge debate about, isn't that just work? However, for diversity, there has been a lot of answers on the market that said, wow, for us, we have been trying just to be recognized for who we are. And now there's this huge discussion around quiet quitting, where when we want equity and we want the right thing. So look at what's happening on the market. Understand where are people's headspace and what you need to act on that is relevant today, and address it. In your surveys, if you do pulse surveys, for example, feel free to ask them what they think about it and your position as an employer. This open communication will change so many things. And that brings me to the roles and responsibilities, because communication is one of the key aspects. So roles and responsibilities, all hands on deck. Let's talk about the executives. Okay, we're talking about senior leadership here. What are the expectations? We're asking them to be model behavior, to have model behavior, to champion the strategy, calling in, calling out behavior. So they need to take positions from time to time. They need to be able to talk about different polemic on the market. So this is important to feed them with information. Whomever is in charge of the DEI program needs to be able to have discussion and say, hey, you know what? That's one hot topic right now. Our employee population is really impacted by it. They are talking about it, because the engagement will also be attached with it. So your plan needs to make sure that the executives first are model behavior. So they're engaged, they understand what you're trying to do, they champion the strategy, and they're knowledgeable. You feed them with the right information. So this way you can tell them, hey, this is good, this is bad, why? So voila, that's for the executives. Human resources, their role. Design a welcoming, inclusive, and healthy employee experience, and candidate as well. Remember, our path, super important. promote these programs and initiatives in a way that is inclusive. So it's promoted to all. For example, let's say we have remote workers, they don't have access to a computer, to a cell phone. It's okay, but for sure you're reaching them to pay them, to communicate very important aspects. You need to reach out to them. They need to know that they have access to programs internally. And HR is also responsible within this to survey the workforce, because you represent confidentiality. If you don't do a business with a third party, that's very important that you own that. Facilities. Why am I talking about facilities? Oops. Because designing the interior, the building, the physical environment is super important for the workforce. You know, you have to think about lifestyles, about the needs, about the values. So this way, people, when they join the company, they're joining also a physical place a lot of the time. Yes, some of us work from home, but also a lot of people have to go to work. And when you look at your demographics, you will know what they need and you will ask them as well. So facilities needs to be not only managing properties, but thinking about diversity. IT, making sure that technology is accessible and free from bias. For example, there are a lot of databases that are biased. You have to make sure that, oh, the data that is in there provides the right point of view that is neutral. Same thing when we talk about accessible technology. Is everyone given the same opportunity to do their jobs based on who they are? If you've hired them, they should feel like it's equitable. The DEI committee, their role, they're subject matter experts, okay? So they should be known from the workforce. They should be available, knowledgeable. They're a bridge, huh? So if there are things that are more sensitive, more complicated to talk about, they're another way to communicate with the business without having to go through their managers or through HR. That's a more neutral way to get mentorship, let's say, on certain topics. And they promote programs and initiatives. That's the right arm of HR. So this way they can say, hey, we endorse this one. This is fantastic. Tick, tick, tick. So the DEI committee, very useful for that. The employee resource groups, subject matter experts, same thing. Bridge as well. They promote, so it's very similar to the DEI committee. However, what you add to it is that, for example, what is an ERG is you can have the Latino employee resource group. So everyone that describes themselves as such can join the group and share what they would need, talk about things. It doesn't have to be work related. It can simply be also social discussions. It creates glue between people. But also after, when you have confidence that you belong, these groups interact together as well. You know, it's a way to make sure that we engage the employee population and we provide reassurance as well. And the employees, what are their roles? First is to be curious. It's super important. Everyone has to have this open mind to want to educate themselves and to read about it and to ask questions with empathy. Be an ally and participate in initiatives, because as a business, as you're putting your plan together and you're creating your programs, well, all employees should participate. And as the senior leadership is a model behavior, they're the first one to register to all the initiatives. And the employees will see it and it will continue. Okay, it creates participation. Another stat, diverse companies are 70% more likely to capture a new market. Do you know why? It's because when you have a diverse workforce, you have different point of view. You develop a new product, for example, and you have a diverse task force on that, you will have all of the angles. So you will have the angle from different age, different ethnicity, different gender, different experience, education. That allows you to see it from a point of view of customer that is very diverse, so you're able to go get more markets. This is the strength of diversity. Intuitive learning, very, very important. First, let's talk about what you have to put in there. You know, it's the training part. So it's for whom? It's for the exec team, your HR team, your employees, and your DEI committee. Let's go in details. So for the executive team, what are we talking about here? They should learn to talk about DEI. That's the first thing. So part of your plan, organize a training, and it's simply about how to address these sensitive topics in a way that is not hurtful, that is open-minded. You're allowed to be clumsy talking about these topics, because even if you are trained, even if you are well-intentioned, depending on the person in front of you, they have their own experience. But if you give training to your exec team already, they will have at least references on how to address certain topics, what happened, examples, how to fix things. So it's how to talk about DEI with your employees, but also with the market, because they are leveraged by public relations, and they might be talking about DEI, how they're using it, how they're leveraging it, you know, in their company. So first, how to talk about DEI. Second thing, business benefits associated to DEI. That's another training that is fantastic. The CFO will love that. Same thing for your chief technology officer as well. Don't be scared to give them business training on DEI. There are fantastic trainings on the market. And also, what are the most pressing matters in the organization and how it is changing? Your demographics, it needs to reach their desk. Same thing for the comments on the programs and trainings. So every time that you do a survey, a pulse survey, quick meeting with the exec team, these are the top 3 priorities. This is what's most pressing. We need to act. We need commitment from the exec team. So if you train them on understanding what will come to their desk, how fast they need to react on it, and how they should talk about it, already you will have amazing allies. Note in the top right corner, they're very busy. We all know that. So it should be online, pre-recorded to fit any schedule. And if you want, you can also use your internal team to record trainings. For example, your DEI committee can be fantastic to do the first one. The business benefits associated to DEI, if you have someone in finance that is passionate about DEI, that is knowledgeable, and that wants to create content, use them. So important, you make this flexible and accessible for the execs. Training for HR. So what do we want to talk about? DEI in the workplace. There is specific vocabulary about DEI in the workplace that we want to be able to talk about. Just being able to differentiate equity and inclusion and belonging is the beginning. But to be able to talk about unconscious biases and to talk about how we can transform the world of work through immigration. You know, there are little things that are super important to start having these discussions. So vocabulary about DEI in the workplace. Best practices as well. Okay, I'm going to give you some right after, but there are a lot of trainings out there as well about the best practices. How to handle DEI crisis, because when we start talking about DEI, people will share their stories, and there might be situations where you're like, I had no idea this was happening, but now I need to deal with it. And it's okay, because we cannot remain ostriches. You know, we have to look up and deal with what's happening. So how to handle the DEI crisis with empathy and with a business mind, amazing. And psychology, you know what? It's always a bonus. For HR, it's great just to understand how to project, how to be able to use operational empathy. That is fantastic. Psychology can help as well. So here, what do we favor? We favor a mix of workshops and online trainings. Workshops, they're amazing. Okay, once we start having a few trainings under our belt, well, having these workshops will create really richness, and we'll be able to create new ideas and how to make the plan better. Training for the employees. I'm going to say it right away, it should be fun. Okay, it shouldn't be a burden. It should be interesting. It should be very, very, very concrete. Okay, we don't go through theory. That's not what's interesting. It's role play. It's what's happening. It's case studies. It's, again, light and easy. They should learn to talk about identity with respect. Not everyone is at the right stage. You know, not everyone knows about it. And the interest is not the same either. So it has to be respectful of that. So the only thing that they need to know is to talk about it with respect. So first step, first training. Then how to deal with differences. Okay, I do not agree, or I don't feel comfortable with this difference. How to deal with it, how to interact, and how to elevate a group. Okay, so this one is about, you are an employee, you are part of a workforce, you will see situation, you will hear people. And how do you elevate people above what's happening to see a greater good, our mission, vision, values within the company? How do we just go back to this? We are humans working towards the same goal. Differences do not matter. But how to elevate a group is fantastic to create unity. And you put that with the employees, with the entire employee population. So this way, they are all actors of change, of positive change. And training for the DEI committee. So what should they learn about? They are our subject matter experts. So, okay, you have first to train them on your demographics. They need to understand who you are today. But they also need to be trained on HR as well, because they will be involved with discussions. For sure, they will refer to HR too, but talking about confidentiality, employee relation process. This way, they can equip the employees to go to the next stage. People may be more comfortable going to the DEI committee and say, hey, I experimented this, I experienced this, I don't know what to do. When you give them basic HR training, they know what to tell the employees in a way that will be conform to the processes in place. And finally, business goals, because the DEI committee is there as well to serve a purpose. So, okay, what we're trying to achieve here are these KPIs. They come from, as you know, the exec, HR, blah, blah, blah. So you give them the business goal, you train them on having a business mind. Companies employing an equal number of men and women manage to produce up to 41% higher revenue. That's incredible, right? And that's because you diversify the type of leadership. And some people will respond a lot better to men, other from women, other from non-gender. So it's super important to have this representation in order to create higher revenue. So now, time to take off. What do I mean by that? I mean about, okay, what can we do in our plan based on the challenges that we face? You've done your survey. Good job. So now you realize that you have a diversity ratio challenge. You had objectives, you're not meeting them. What can you do? The first thing is unbiased recruitment. How do we do that? First, you check your ATS functionality. Sometimes they have the diversity option where they will present you with the resume without the contact information. So you don't know the name, you don't know where they come from. So you only have a resume with experience. So already you're getting a resume that removes some of the biases And it can change how you recruit. Give it a try if you can. Then the DEI committee involvement. Have someone from the DEI committee attend to the interview. Give feedback, give them a weight in the decision process. So this way, they might change who you would have picked first. New hiring pools. Consider looking at local affiliations, for example. Consider, you can call your town hall for that. They will tell you, for example, oh, there is oh, sorry, I'm searching for your word, spectrum, autism spectrum, affiliation that you can hire from, or we have people with mobility disorder that you can hire from as well. So they will guide you, because some employees can be fantastic for certain roles, depending on who they are, that you could look at that you have never tried before. And same thing, if you are always hiring from the same circle, leverage your ERGs, your employee resource groups, and ask them to post in their own affiliations, own groups when you have a position. So you're going to reach out a lot more people. So that will help when your diversity ratio is not met, okay? You have a bad DEI reputation on the market, okay? It's possible. What can we do? First thing is to make sure that you have a DEI policy that is public on your corporate website. So work with internal comms, work with HR, work with your DEI committee, and whip up a DEI policy that you will respect, reinforce, and that is also supported by your managers and execs. Have ambassador testimonials. So you have hired people from diversity, can be invisible minority, can be visible, whatever it is. Have people that are at ease enough, if they had a good experience, to do a testimonial, record themselves, put it on the website that talks about their own experience with you. Do a supplier assessment. Ask your suppliers to be DEIB friendly as well. You can say that moving forward, your business will only be partnering with suppliers that have a DEI policy, for example. And broadcast that, use PR to make sure that people know that you're taking actions. Have a DEI clause in your request for a proposal and request for information. When you want to do business with someone new, well, you can ask that they have experience with DEI. So again, this will improve how you are perceived on the market. Equity issues. So what does it mean? Remember, that's the when you put programs together and everyone should have access to them. So what can you do? Well, start by personalizing programs and policies. It's not one size fits all. I know it's more work, but that's what it is to be equitable. Do pay equity audits. Make sure that for basic stuff like pay, you're doing the right thing. Do sponsorship programs for executives, okay, with employees for diverse background. They become their protege. So you have an exec with someone from diversity, you pair them together, that person is being coached, move up the ladder. That's fantastic. Standardized promotion process with DEI committee review. As soon as you have a position opened, you post it internally first, and you make sure that DEI committee is involved when someone is going to be promoted, and mostly when they're going to be managing people as well. You can provide financial counseling, peer mentoring, and academic sponsorship. These three things help with equity issues, because often it's related to money, competencies, education, and that's something that you can act on. So financial counseling for people that want to manage their pay in a better way, to have access to a house, to have access to a car, so it's easier to come to work than public transportation. I don't know, but financial counseling has a great impact on people, a positive impact. Peer mentoring, same thing, because not only does it help everyone grow, it also breaks down barriers. People get to know each other. Because once you remove the fear of something, usually you get to like it. And it's the same thing for diversity. If there's a fear internally to move forward, to interact with people that are different, this peer mentoring is something that can help a lot in your plan. And the academic sponsorship, people want to get educated, excellent for you. So it's something that if you want to sponsor, that will also change the profile of your organization. If you have inclusion issues, first, well, celebrate. Can we make it fun, please? Celebrate employee differences. Okay. Really highlight every holiday that you can think of. Ask them to create a list. Ask it in your survey. So it's something fun to start with. Educate for inclusion issues. You want people to feel happy. So if you educate people, diversity, non-diversity people, everyone, we feel better, we feel more in control, we understand, we remove the fear. Okay, so establish that all lifestyle matters. Here, for example, I'm going to talk about people that have a family with kids, other people that maybe have a dog. It's okay. You're allowed to leave work for any of these situations. All lifestyle matters. Different choice, it's personal, we respect it. So that's part of inclusion. So you have to make sure that people understand that it's respected. Promote constructive discussions. In order to feel included, you have to have your voice heard. To have your voice heard, you have to know that the person in front of you is ready to hear you. So training about constructive discussions or about empathic feedback is amazing for inclusion issues. And build diverse roundtables on different topics. That's great too. So you have a new product, a new projects, a new products, a new service, a new department, a new office location. Do a roundtable with people from different backgrounds. Discuss it. See how you can make it evolve, make it better, see it from all angles. That's the fun part. I wrote it at the top, involve everyone. That's where you will see the magic happen. The more you bring people together by being model behavior, by giving them words to use, you will see transformation. So that's very important to put in your plan. Belonging issues, mixed project teams as part of your processes. As soon as you put a project team together, you should have at least one person from another team in it. Increase social activities, okay? Leverage common interests. Let's say, hey, you notice that you have some people that are passionate about fishing. Okay, why not? Well, let's go fishing. It's something, hey, you have a group that is super passionate about comics. Excellent. Let's do an activity around that. So leverage their interests to bring people together that will have completely different background, but that their interests will bring together. Okay, this one is a bit out of the box. We did it with one customer. It was amazing. Challenge core belief with debate teams. Do you remember the debate teams in college? Well, it's the same thing. You bring one topic, okay? This month is about, I don't know, it could be about a holiday. I want to see this holiday representation at work. I don't want to see it. And you have both team debate and then you switch the team around and they have to debate too. It opens the mind. And teach the and technique. So in your speech, when you talk to someone, it's never but, it's always and. So you think this, and I would add that. That also is a little step towards how people will open up their mind, will become more acceptant, will be able to have discussions that will be easier to receive and that will make your employee population grow. So first you attract all of this diversity And then you create a healthy, positive environment where people feel that, again, they belong. And I was talking about change management. You cannot expect it to change overnight. Okay, it will take a long time. It's all these little initiatives, these little activities, these moments, these trainings that adding up will transform you. Over communicate. It's a topic that needs to be heard about. It's a topic that needs to be lived. It's a topic that needs to be made easier. So over communicate and use different channels, use different people, use your DEI committee. Act immediately when a situation arises. Why? Because model behavior, remember, not only the execs, everyone, if something happens, you don't let it slip, you address it. We have to have leadership courage for that. Reinforce roles and responsibilities. Make sure that, you know what I showed you earlier, what are the execs responsible for, HR, DEI committee, facilities, all of that, make it public. Make it so everybody knows what's happening and who they can go to if they have any ideas, if they want to give feedback. So this way it's very transparent. Update on all progress achieved. Because we cannot forget to celebrate. It's super important to say, hey guys, we have changed. Look at what we've done. And you can have picture of activities, or you can have stats that shows how you've improved the workforce or how the profits have changed. So make sure that you update on progress. This stat for me is amazing. The gross domestic product could increase 26% by equally diversifying the workforce. Remember when I said that if you have a diverse team, you increase your profits because you see it from all angles and you can tackle the market in a way that it will be more attractive to more people. Well, that's the power of it. If we could all do it, it would change the face of the country. So that's how powerful it can be when we understand that it's a program. It's long-term. It's not a project with an end date. You have to just trust the process and continue. So your plan, it includes your surveys, it includes your demographics, your results, training everyone in the business and addressing with programs. And you keep adding to this all the time in your employee experience, in your candidate experience, in a way that makes you grow based on your KPIs. So, shoot for the moon. This is my last words to you, okay? You want to be ahead of the game, what do? Well, there's no secrets. There's not anyone that has a magical recipe that will make it work. It's about knowing your organization. So, data. Having open and frank discussions. So if you are educated, you know how to talk about it, you can address anything that's happening. Communication. Get a budget. Yes, it's not free to do all of that. So make sure that the execs are committed, that they see the value. You need a budget. Budget can mean money, can mean resources, but this is part of it. Get going and never stop. That is the secret to make it work and to make sure that this DEI plan will show results in the end. So, my dear Sarah, do we have questions?
No, I do not see any questions in our chat, so I'm taking that to mean everyone is well on board. They understand all of the lovely concepts that you have shared today.
Well, that's beautiful. Thank you, everyone. I hope that you have enjoyed the session today. If there's anything that we can do, Sarah at HR Strategies is there for you. I'm here for you as well at SEP24. We are your diversity and HR partners. We can help you make a better world. That's really our goal. You know, everyone should feel happy and comfortable in the world of work, and we can make a difference. So, voila, that's the end for today.
Yes, that's it. Thank you all for joining us and have a great afternoon.